Good morning. This is Chris Arrolt, Nautilus Architects, located in Old Lyme, Connecticut. And this morning we're again at a project site. This time it's on a beautiful lake in the area. And I wanted to talk this morning a little bit about the setting for this property. It was a challenge because it's on what was originally little slivers of land that were just sort of access points for the owners of those slivers to get their boats and canoes down to the lake. And so there weren't any houses here, there were just little access strips. And then over time, sort of in the 30s and 40s, people started buying up multiple strips and turning them into houses. But it remained very tight shoulder to shoulder house footprints. So you can see in the background here we have this house on the one side, our project in the middle, and then another house right there. And in fact, this car behind me belongs to the people who live in that house there, even though it looks like it's a car in the driveway of our house. So everything's shoulder to shoulder. The nice thing about this house is that it sticks out farther toward the lake in the back. So once you get in the house and out the back side, these other houses kind of recede into the background, and you're left with just the lake sort of wrapping around you, which is a nice feature. So one thing I wanted to do this morning was talk about the materiality of the exterior finishes of this house in contrast, for instance, to the adjacent houses. Like this house here is basically what our house looked like to begin with. It's actually like aluminum siding and sort of these small horizontal windows that are not really letting in very much light or view. And so we inherited a lot of those things, and we tried to improve on them. So let's go a little bit closer. So with the siding choices, the general impression that I had of this setting was that it felt to me like maybe a property on a lake in New Hampshire, like Lake Winnipesaukee. So I had this general vision of how the house should look overall as that, and then I started to dissect that look and see what comprises that look, what leads to that overall look in the end in the particular choices. And one big one was the choice of roof material. We were using asphalt. We didn't really want to use wood for this. It was a shallow pitch roof that we inherited because we really didn't change too much about the form of the house other than adding this front entry. So we were going to use asphalt, but I don't like to use asphalt and have it sort of try to look like wood or look like a natural material. It's crushed up slate pieces. So I used red, which I thought was a distinctive color that also went well with the siding, which is Western red cedar. And those two kind of have the reddish brown look that helps blend them together. And then they're accented with trim, which is kind of I guess a sage green trim. So again, sort of the green brown earth tone kind of feel. And then we also have natural wood, those cedar pieces that make up that little truss over the front entry. Again, sort of tying it in with the nature, true materials, real materials found in nature. And the stone also is a nice way to have the building meet the ground. It feels like it just connects to the ground more than having just siding going down and then some strip of concrete that you try to screen with foundation plantings. And then also in front of the stone you can see that there's pea stone there, so we don't have landscaping coming up to the house, which will get splash things onto the side of the house and require more fussy maintenance if you had, say, grass going up there. So this front entry is something that we added, and that was a great way to sort of extend covered welcoming area out toward the visitor. Also, the fact that the house is set down here um, makes you feel like you want to pay more attention to the roof plane than maybe in some other setting. Let's just quickly walk around the back of the house. One other seemingly small detail that might get overlooked a lot of times is the choice of gutter, whether to have a gutter or not, and if so, what kind of gutter to have. And on the front of the house, you may have noticed, and I forgot to mention, that there is no gutter on the front of the house because the roof line is so low. It's particularly objectionable, in my opinion, to have a gutter hanging down sort of right at eye level staring at you. So in the front of the house we just have no gutter, and water comes off the roof into the pea stone and filters down into the pea stone, goes into a pipe that leads it around. So that's what's called a grade gutter, where you deal with the water management below the surface of the ground plane as opposed to up at the roof edge. But here on the back of the house you can see that we do have gutters because they're much higher up, so they're not really as in your face. And we also have a more complicated situation to deal with. We can't have grade gutters, for instance, because we have a bluestone terrace here, so we need to take the water away at the roof edge. But we've chosen not to do the conventional aluminum, what's called a K-style gutter, which is that little kind of like colonial profile that everybody has. It's kind of like what you get if you don't think about it. We've done aluminum. You can get copper gutters, you can get zinc gutters, you can pay tons of money for gutters. These gutters are aluminum, but they're half round, which is a nice simple shape. And the downspouts are cylindrical. So that again is in contrast to the funny kind of rectangular shape with a lot of profile to it that you would get by default. And they're a dark brown, which almost looks like an aged red copper. So they really blend in with the rest of our color palette here. And the whole thing, I think, goes together well. It gives a nice, it looks like a house that belongs on the side of a lake. And actually fishermen and swimmers and stuff come by here every morning during the summer and comment favorably on the whole thing. I'm Chris Arrolt, Nautilus Architects, Old Lyme, Connecticut.